Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm Brian Call. I'm your host. And today's show is with Justin, Colton, and Adam from Limitless Outdoors. For years, I've watched them tackle hardcore adventures across the West and into Alaska. I have long admired the toughness and the grit that makes up Limitless Outdoors. I especially love their DIY Alaska moose hunting adventures. And if you haven't watched those videos, you're missing out. On this episode, we talk about hunting, creating a hunting show, and the meaning behind it all. It's a deep episode, the conversation inevitably working its way into what it means to be human and to live well. I hope you enjoy the episode. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. And stay gritty. All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm Brian Call. I'm back in the Cybertruck at the Western Hunt Expo, and I have the gentleman from Limitless Outdoors with me in the truck. Now, I have a question. Okay, Justin, if you had to give up your current truck to have this truck, but you could never sell this truck, would you do it?
There's no way. Way. It's not. It's really cool. Actually, I was driving down the road the other day, and we keep seeing them. They're popping up everywhere, right? And we're just like, my wife and I are like, man, it'd be cool to have one. Like in the ideal world, if you could just have it parked and play with it whenever you want to, right? Yeah. But from a practical standpoint, like I just visualize, I need a generator in the back just in case.
One way you could do it is you could make the trade. But then you still have to go buy the other truck.
Yeah, exactly.
The battery doesn't quite get you where you need to go.
No.
Especially where you boys are living in Alaska. Are all of you in Alaska now?
Yeah. Yep. We're all up there.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, we're going to get into what you guys, some of your film. I have a lot of questions around your journey.
Yeah.
Before we do that, let's go around the horn here. Do a little introduction.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit about yourself, name, all that stuff.
All right. I'll go first. I'm Justin. Was born in Florida, but raised in Idaho my whole life. My mom was an anti-hunter. My dad was kind of a little bit of a hunter.
Really?
Yeah. So kind of an interesting upbringing. But just from a young age, super deep passion for hunting. Like it didn't come from anybody around me. It was just like innate, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, super passion for that. Grew up in Bonners Ferry, Idaho, out in the country. My brother was in the back seat. Like we'd just be out there riding our bikes to all the creeks around us, fishing. So like it was, in spite of our parents' passion for everything, like it was an ideal place that we grew up in, right? We got to explore that, and it really kindled that.
And how old are you?
37 now, almost 38 here in a couple days.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And
I'm Colton, Justin's brother. And like Justin said, we literally grew up at the bottom of the mountain. And we've been shed hunting since we were little kids and just building tree forts and everything else. And we started, one funny thing for us is that we started filming our hunts with our parents' little VCR camera when I was maybe 8 years old when we started doing that. And we just film our shed hunts, and kind of a natural progression for us really to get into videoing. We just love the outdoors. We watched Primo's videos endlessly, loved elk hunting more than anything. Still, for me, it's my number one passion is archery elk hunting. It's the best thing in the world. There's nothing like an elk screaming in your face. So, yeah.
Right on. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm Adam. I was born in Bonners, actually, but raised in Montana. And I grew up in a hunting family.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's always been passion. And yeah, I was a big fan of these guys when I was a kid. Funny enough. Met him at a show. Met Justin at a show. Bought a t-shirt from him.
And how old are you?
26.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm 32.
32.
Yeah.
Wow. There's a bit of a gap here. Like,
yeah.
All right.
But yeah, but then I don't know, what was that?
2019,
the fall or summer of 2019. I met our buddy Shane at church and knew he was wearing a Limitless Outdoors coat.
Yeah.
And he was like, I went up and talked to him. It's like, oh,
and you knew of?
He had been on some videos, but I didn't really recognize him. He's kind of like, he had super long hair, big beard. So he's changed.
Like Ryan Lampers.
Yeah.
Funny.
But I didn't recognize him. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm with Limitless Outdoors. I'm friends with Justin. And my eyes just lit up. And anyway, so I got to know him, and he's like, well, you need to come and meet Justin.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, it was like a week later. Or no, because you guys are going to Alaska. And he's like, well, when I get back from Alaska on the Moose Hunt, I'll hit you up. And so I met Justin like in October. And first thing he said to me was, what are you doing like next week? You want to go on a hunt with us?
Mm-hmm.
And I had plans, and I should have just dropped those plans and went with them, but I missed that opportunity. But that's kind of how I got in with these guys. And yeah.
First hunt was spring of 2020.
2020.
Yeah. Bear hunting.
Shut up.
All during COVID, everything was shut down. He couldn't get a tag in Idaho because COVID shut down out of state hunting. So he just went along for the ride. It's a good trip.
So tell me about your journey. Like how did you come to be Limitless Outdoors? And I can't remember the first time I came on a video just on YouTube, came popping up. I mean, I could think back to, I think one of the first videos I ever saw was like a gnarly elk hunt, like in some snow.
Yeah.
And I think you guys had mentioned it was like one of the first gnarly, I don't remember. And then I saw a whole bunch of mule deer hunts, which I tuned into those.
Yeah.
Some on like horseback or you know, and what I kept seeing was real hunting, like blue collar kind of stuff, no rich bands.
Yeah.
And I saw guys that just hustled and got it done, on these hunts, and were just kept it really honest and real. And then over the years, seeing the continued level of success and the continued, not just on any animals either, but very nice, like public land, like kind of unicorn type animals, not like a little forky, you know, like some really big buck. And you're like, okay, these guys are getting it done. They're shaking it up. And then through the years, now it's like the experience and the skill, from gear to how far you guys go and all of that stuff. It's as hardcore as it gets.
Yeah.
But yeah, tell me kind of, how did it start? Hey folks, pardon the interruption, but I've got to tell you about this new Tricer RP bipod for your rifle. This thing is incredible. It's going to take the market by storm. You're going to want one. Everyone will. It's like no other bipod on the market. It's been designed to do everything in one bipod, which is generally not what we have available to us on the market today. Use the code GRITTY over at Tricer and you will save. Whether you're shooting from a prone or sitting position, this bipod adapts seamlessly to every field environment. You're going to get rock solid stability when it matters most. This bipod includes everything for $299. You've got the long legs, the short legs, you got spikes, you got rubber feet, Arca Swiss, Picatinny compatible, plus a swivel stud to Picatinny adapter, giving you unmatched flexibility for any hunting scenario. Bottom line, this is the last bipod you'll ever need. Use the code GRITTY over at Tricer.com. You'll get a discount and you'll get the last bipod you'll ever need. All right, let's get back to the show.
Well, I think Colton touched on it earlier. Like it was that innate passion from the time we were young. And then, so we grew up without a lot. Like, so our parents, they are big, like dreamer type people, but they were terrible at implementing stuff. And so they put themselves way out on some limbs and ended up losing the house, losing everything. Right. And so we were it was a super tumultuous upbringing, but like watching the Primos guys, those were our guys when we were growing up, and like Jack Brittingham, some of those guys, that generation. Like there was always this theme, like anybody could do this. And I remember being a kid and believing like anybody could do this. And so that was the direction like we set out towards. And it was kind of a curved journey, kind of like Israel wandering around in the wilderness for 40 years. Right. But you know, and you go through different phases, kind of like you were talking about earlier before we got on here, of, you know, working these different jobs. And then you come to these points of realization, like you're confronted with like your mortality or somebody else's mortality. And you realize like you got one opportunity to chase after the things that God's put deep in your heart to pursue. And I don't think that's an accident. And so like, it just came to this point where we were always doing it. We were making videos. It kind of slowly got better. But then for me, kind of where it started to catalyze was, I had a good friend growing up. We lived together. We did everything together. His name's Travis Schneider. He got stuck in the rut.
Mhm.
And he and I started that together and started like spurring each other on in the video. Like we were always encouraging each other in video. And then I became a Christian in 2013. And that's why, because I was just pursuing absolutely everything as hard as I could. And there was no fulfillment in it. And so then I become a Christian. And that's when Travis and I decided to go separate directions so that I could really focus on the ministry end of the videos and really, really pioneer that. And so that's when Limitless Outdoors started. And it was right at the beginning of the era of YouTube, right? It was that kind of transition time.
I was watching Stuck in the Rut at the time too.
Yeah.
So of those early episodes, you would have been on there.
Yeah.
With Travis.
I don't know if like the YouTube stuff, no. Like we made DVDs back in that time. So that's what I was going to say is we were in the beginning of this that transition between DVD and YouTube. Like YouTube had been out for a while, but it was still to put your stuff on there. It wasn't gaining a lot of traction.
Yeah.
And Travis started putting stuff on YouTube and it started taking off. And I don't think we started putting stuff on YouTube till like 2017. We made DVDs for a while. We were behind the times.
2017?
Yeah. 2016, 2017. But we were behind the times from that standpoint.
Yeah.
And, but when, we started, I'm sure you kind of went through the same thing, but I put a video out there and we got 80 views.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, that's a waste of time. And then we put another one out. And it got 200 views. But then all of a sudden, diligence and discipline in any direction is going to get you somewhere to a destination, right? And so with that focus, determination, and direction, like things just build over time. They don't happen overnight. A lot of times, you get spikes that happen overnight. But we ended up, it just started catching on. Like you've experienced that journey too, where you start getting more subscribers and more people watching. And I think the key for us has been staying true to what got us into it. And what we're trying to accomplish with it and not deviating from it, right? Because it's so easy to get pulled in 100 different directions. But I think like you were talking about that authenticness, right? Like that staying true to your niche, the things that you're gifted in and not trying to be anybody else. I think people enjoy that and are attracted to it. And you're not going to attract everybody. Like you're going to attract your people. And that's what you got to focus on.
Smart. That's so on the nose there because that's the truth. You'll never be somebody you're not. Like I'll never be Ryan Lamp.
Yeah.
And he'll never be me. I mean, it's like, and I think I'll never be Stuck in the Rut. They won't be gritty. There's when you start putting content out and for the world to see, and like you guys, I want to put something out that's meaningful, that actually changes the world, that changes the way people live and how they decide to be in a positive way.
Yeah.
I want to inspire them to get outside, all that stuff. So I'm doing it for many reasons, but probably I want the biggest reason for me is to do something meaningful and make a difference. Right. But I'm going to have a style. I'm going to have the way I behave that's going to attract a certain group. And then there's going to be people, because believe me, I mean, I started gritty. It was Gritty Bowman. And like, I started with Snyder, Aaron from over at KUIU. And when we started, we were opposites, still are. And when Aaron people would be drawn to Aaron and annoyed by me. Believe me, they let me know. And then they'd be annoyed by Aaron and they like me.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like
nothing new under the sun in that
right.
regard.
And so I learned pretty early that there's an audience that I connect with. That's the audience that I'm for.
Yeah.
The rest of them, I'm not you. I'm not your thing. Change the channel. I get it. That's fine. But like you said, if you're consistent over a long period of time and you're doing something authentically and real that you love to do, the results will come over time. There will be a group of people that gravitate toward that are your people.
Totally. Yeah. The reality is, it's really easy when Travis and I back in the days for starting Stuck in the Rut, we were like, it's really easy to whore yourself out. That's how we always talked about it, right? Like anybody can do it. But at the end of the day, that's what you are, really. I mean, sorry to be so on the nose, but that's what you are as a whore, right? And so, I think that being principled is a difficult thing. Greatness is the path of most resistance. Like the path of least resistance is to be like everybody else and to stand out. I mean, you're going to get hammered, right? Like people are going to not like you. They're going to criticize you. And at a certain point, you have to develop thick skin. And so for us, actually, one of the ways that we did that is like the bad comments. So for anybody that watches our stuff and like I share the gospel on every hunt. And so for me, one of the metrics of our success is that we get people bashing on us for it.
Sure.
So it means that they're hearing it, right? So that's a metric for success. So what you can do within your mind when you're dealing with opposition or people that don't like you or whatever, is you start seeing those as metrics of success, right? Because if nobody says anything about you, if nobody's negative about you, that means you're not impacting anybody.
Yeah.
Like I have my friend that led me to the Lord. He's a pastor. He always says, if you want to make everybody happy, become an ice cream salesman. Right. But I think anytime, because you said it yourself, like you want to impact things. And I think that's what all of us are doing. We're wanting to impact things for the better. We all have an idea of, okay, if I can get people to this place, that's going to be the best thing for them. Because so for me, that's what I'm trying to inspire people towards, because I was inspired.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like you've been there, you've tasted that fruit, you're in a certain place where you found a lot of value here and it's meaningful, and you want to help someone else get there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And experience that. And I think the medium of the outdoors is also somewhat like closer to God, and so when you're out there, I feel like there's an audience that, is interested in creation and where you came from and why we're here and all of that. You can't help but go out there and ask those questions or feel those things.
Totally.
And so, on the hate thing, it's one of those things that, I see so many people that are afraid of being hated that they don't take any risks. And, it takes a certain will to be like, I'm going to say what I want, how I want to say it, because I believe in it. And that's it. Let the chips fall.
Well, and I think anything, if we take it out of the context of the hunting world, and for me, Jesus, like I look at somebody like Elon Musk right now, like he's hucking it. Like, but that guy's going to impact things that's going to be talked about and impact things, not just talked about, because that's not a metric for success. Like people talk about, Miley Cyrus twerking, like that's not a metric for success necessarily being talked about. Maybe they don't talk about that anymore. That's how old I am. But like the actual true impact on things, but it requires sacrifice, right? Like stock plummets you just look at across the board. We're sitting in one of his trucks right now.
Yeah. It is a scary thing though, when you're trying to make an impact and you put yourself out there and you hate it on. I remember the first time it happened to me, I was like, I'm a nice guy. Like, why do you hate my guts? Like, God, okay, well, I guess so. And so it took me a little while to, get used to that. I was saying this the other day though. Dan Staten was here and we were talking, and he said, I said, there was a time where, I sought some validation for what I was accomplishing. And I really wanted people to see my work and go, that was really meant a lot to me. And, I think that's natural, but as it progressed over the years, now I appreciate it. It's a metric. It's a sign that I'm moving in the right direction, but it's also in some ways in my mind, a byproduct of my path and what matters to me. It's not the goal. The appreciation isn't the goal. The goal is, did I make a difference? Did I do what I set out to do that's meaningful? And so now all of the attention that I get on occasion, like here at a show, it's kind of, in a way, it's like noise.
Yeah. Yeah.
But with it, so is the hate. It's just noise.
Yeah.
Because I'm on a path that I feel I'm inspired to be on. So when I get hated on, I'm like, yeah. When I get loved on, I'm like, yeah. Because right here is where it matters to me. And that stuff's sort of byproducts of what I do. But what I do, I'm finding so much meaning and purpose in that I can't wait to get up in the morning and do the next thing,
Yeah. And I think you see that across the board, right? So my son is really into basketball. So we watch a lot of basketball right now, and he plays. And you notice all the best players, like they play right through the foul. And then there's players that they get fouled, and it's a big deal. And the reality is, it's like, you're always going to get fouled in life by people. But if you're going to be great, you have to learn to just play through it, right? You keep going where you're going. You keep trying to make the shot, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, I think that's just a reality. You could talk forever about this concept for sure.
On the course of this journey that you've been on, what was the most difficult stretch that you've been through? Okay, folks, if you like the show and you want to support us and you're in the market for a brand new sleeping bag, check out the Peaks Solace 15. We spent a lot of years designing that sleeping bag in partnership with Peaks Equipment. The Peaks sleeping bag has so many innovative features. The old backpacker saying that 2 is 1 and 1 is none is never more true. And this sleeping bag is so versatile. It can be a quilt. It can be a jacket. It's got armholes. It's a 3-way zipper. It regulates temperature really well. It's got the hood. It's pretty remarkable. Go check it out. Use the code GRITTY and you'll save. And it helps us keep doing what we do. Now, let's get back to the show.
Probably this last year, to be honest with you.
Yeah, for sure. It was a big turning point for all of us. We all have growing families, and Justin has a daughter that's almost out of the house at this point. When we started this, Adam and I didn't have kids, and now we do. It's definitely a change.
So this last year then?
Yeah. Moving to Alaska. Grew up in Bonners Ferry, Idaho, and you don't realize the depth of relationship and what that actually means until you walk away from it. When you've been in an area your whole life, like it's a pretty crazy thing.
So why did you do it?
Well, I think we talked a little bit out there about it, but the passion for, you've been to Alaska, it's like, but the deal is with Alaska and hunting in general it's changed from the time I was young. Like, we were all walking around in Carhartts and you couldn't hardly get good gear. And you look at the gear today and you look at the way that the industry has exploded, like it's changed. And along with that, hunting opportunity has decreased, and those opportunities are becoming more expensive.
Yeah.
And so I think wisely, Alaska has protected its resources by blocking non-residents in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And so the barrier to entry to do these hunts that we've been passionate about and dreaming and watching Jack Brittingham from the time we were kids to do, it's like, if you can get a brown bear hunt for $30,000, you're doing good. But as a resident now, I was able to shoot 2 in the last year. All of my tags were $70 combined. Yeah. And so that was the driving force. But really, we wanted to start reaching different people. So we talk about, like, different types of people watch different types of hunts. And so that was a real driving force for us, is we wanted to reach different people for what we're trying to accomplish, trying to share the gospel out to different demographics, right?
When you go to make a film, or to go on a hunt, like, what's the process for you in your mind? Like, how you're going to film it, or what do you do? Do you just kind of just let it roll and just be?
Yeah, honestly, it's really, every now and then there's a little bit of a concept of what we want to do, but we often say, like, when a hunt comes together, even after, like, we've had times where it's just brutal day after day, nothing happened. Yeah. And then it happens. It's like, well, God's just making another hunt. He's putting it together. We have, like, there's a reality is, like, you just keep going, and if it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, most of life isn't completely in your hands anyways. So it's just, it's one of those things where we go and we show up and we wake up and keep going.
I think one thing that I appreciate about your videos is you seem to have a lot of forethought on what you're trying to accomplish with them. And I think one of the things that's made us successful has been our flexibility. Video, we've gotten good at videoing together. The three of us, pretty much, one of us has the cameras, or all of us are capturing stuff, but allowing the hunt to flow. Cause you know how it is. You can have a great plan, or who is it that said everybody has a plan until they get hit in the face? Tyson, was it him? And, but that's the reality, right? Like, you get out there and you get hit in the face by some storm that keeps you in your tent for 3 or 4 days, and everything that you were thinking, your drone doesn't work, or whatever, and that's one of our differences too, like your production value and level, is, I would say, like way up here. And I think we're kind of like in the middle. Like I would think of tiers, right? Like Stuck in the Rut, it's quick, right to the pace action, not a lot of production. We try to tell a story more.
Yep.
You guys have a lot of conversational, like I like what you're doing. I mean, it's a little bit different, right? So people will watch all three of ours, and they'll get something different. They're getting a different itch scratched with each video.
You know, and I always try to say this to people, like for example, production quality is great, but I don't watch Stuck in the Rut for production quality.
Yeah.
And yet I watch almost every show. I watch every show you guys do in Alaska. I'm in.
Yeah.
If it's a moose hunt, I am in, and I'm going to watch it like 4 times. Like, it's for real. I mean, you guys have inspired us to be going to Alaska for moose in various ways. I mean, and the production quality, like a Billy Malls. I watch every one of Billy's videos, and all he's doing is just holding his camera and talking.
Yeah.
And showing you the stuff, and it's right there over there. And, and it's like, there's not a high production quality. And yet it's one of my, my favorite shows I watch, partly because he gets to do things that I don't get to do. And I am drawn to that life and what he does and those animals, cause they're just different than the ones I get to. So there's that, but Billy's also like you guys. He just brings you along, tells you the story. It's simple. There's not a ton of production. And yet I learned a long time ago, production doesn't, if you don't have something meaningful, production doesn't mean anything. In fact, I just talked about this the other day on a show, and there are more beautiful and entirely forgettable hunt shows on YouTube now than I have seen in a long time.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
They're gorgeous and I'm like, don't care. Nothing they just show me matters. And I'm not going to name names on this show.
That's a great way of saying it.
But I named them 2 weeks ago on a different show.
Yeah.
I'm just sick of it. Like, I don't like seeing these high-end productions and all this sort of talk and high-minded ideas. And I think they mean well, but I'm watching it and it doesn't connect at all.
Yeah.
And yet the amount of money, time, skill in the production quality was like, wow. And then I sit down and I watch Limitless, chase a moose and then wrap up in the fur and spend the night in it, and it's like, I'm like, yeah, I'm in. I'm all in for this. Is he going to get ate like a spare taco? It's like,
we're still surprised we did.
Yeah. I mean, that stuff is wild and interesting and real and badass. And then I'm over here watching some recurve, pretentious, I don't know, pretty gorgeous video where everybody walks around and talks about, the meaning of the twig in the sky and all this. I don't know why, but I think that is, so I like production quality because I enjoy it. Like I nerd out a little bit on that, but I also care a lot about the story. It has to be something that I didn't waste your time with, that connects to you on a deeper level. And yeah, I see a lot that misses that whole thing. And,
well, I'd encourage you, I'm sure you've talked about it, but sometimes people from the outside see things more clearly, or more simply, right? Just looking in. But so when I look at your show, like you transfer information, like whether you realize that's what you're doing or not. Like I know you have some gleams of it, and we talked about it with your previous occupation. But that's really and conversationally you do it. And so that's one thing that I think that you've done really well. And I actually, I'm not always in the mood for it, but all the conversation that's happening around the shot, there's a lot of information being transferred about how that whole process actually works. And then one thing, I watched your wolf video and I was just going to encourage you. One thing that I appreciated, because I know it was a little bit of a stretch, but like you set up the camera and you just tried to showcase, because you can't ever capture everything that happens in a 2-week hunt, right?
Yeah.
But you just tried to showcase those honest conversations that aren't hunting specific, that happen on the hunt. I thought that was cool. Like, it's cool to reach and try and accomplish that. And I think you did. I'm not trying to say you didn't.
No.
I think you.
That's hard to do with Ryan Lampers. That man doesn't really share much. He's a quiet dude. But I agree. I think that's an element of authenticity. People know that there's like 2 hours of that, and I showed like 10, 15 minutes of it.
Yeah.
And he told me a bunch of other stories, and I shared some of mine. And, but for the film, I'm like, I think this is my favorite, and it's relatable because we've all done something stupid, like, and, but I think that at the end of the day, there's often too much focus on how the film looks or sounds. And I didn't use music for years, no music. I just was like, here we are. It's the morning. We're going here. Da, da, da. I might put some music at the end and a hype reel at the front, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like no music. And then, but music is powerful. And over the years, I've started to, like with the wolf film and other things, I've added some music in, and now some voiceover, which I never did before either. If it didn't get captured out there, it didn't get put in. Like, it had to be said on the hunt, because I didn't do.
Yeah. That's something we've talked about a lot. It's more vlog style.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah. And I really like that. It's just real, like Billy Malls, but I have enjoyed, sometimes I feel like what I did was I produced some content that said, I went here, I did this, and this is what I used to do it. And that's the film, and now, like Blood in the Snow or the Werewolf film, some of that, I wanted to be like, well, this is why we do it. Because I haven't done a lot of why.
Yeah.
In any of the stuff we produced. It's just been where we went, facts, and stuff like that, and just follow along. And now, I feel like the why is deeper and harder to express.
Yeah.
And you guys do it, when you bear testimony, and you kind of roll it in as you go along. And but I haven't done a lot of that. I haven't put a lot of that in my productions. And I'll talk about those things on a podcast.
Yeah.
And we'll have deep conversations with folks, but I didn't really put it in the films. And so it's a bit of a challenge. I'm trying to challenge myself to put more of my own thoughts into it and why I do it or what I felt in that moment. And, that's not just what I told you in the field on the camera.
Yeah. For me personally, when I'm editing, I don't know, I start getting a feel of the story that I want to tell with it. Like, I killed a phenomenal bull that I should not have killed a few years ago now, Colorado. And there was a lot of emotion during that moment, but there's a lot of things I didn't get to say.
Yeah.
And the production end of it, you finally get to say those things about like what something really means to you, to bare your soul a little bit and explain that why that you're talking about. So,
yeah.
I think you got to cross the line from entertainment into things that are more like transcendent and in a sense, because entertainment's so cheap, right? Like everything entertains. You can have a little TikTok reel, or I don't know, I'm not even on social media, but like all these things, right? But then there's stories that are told. It's like great books that have been written over the years. There's been millions of books written over the years, and there's some that stand out. And it's that ability to articulate the story that I think one of the things is like, we're all up against stuff in life. And a lot of times we feel isolation in that, like we're all alone. We're the only ones experiencing these things because nobody really talks about them. And I think those things that are really transcendent are addressing, like being honest and vulnerable about those things, everything, like even the reason, like even really showcasing the reason why you're out there and the backstory to what got you to that point hunting. Like that's what connects with people, and through story, they're able to kind of process through their own issues and how they're approaching it. And so like at the end of the day, you have to decide what the best approach is to impact people for the direction that you're trying to get them in, because, and not in like a manipulative way, but like you truly believe that if somebody were to experience this, so let me back up. Like the deal for me is I remember growing up and there was this coffee table at a place called 3 Mile in Bonners Ferry. And all these guys always talked about hunting in Alaska. You know, they were all in their 60s and, I almost went this one time and I wish I would have gone. And the story of how we all started hunting in Alaska is Travis and I were sitting there and drinking coffee and looking at each other, and we were like, we're not going to be old like these guys and say that, you know, be safe. And so then you go and you experience it and it changes your life, right? Like the vistas you've seen, just being out there, that isolation. And man, for me, I'm not like, I don't care. I don't want to get, to me, I don't want to be the guy that gets to the top of the mountain. I want to bring everybody to the top of the mountain so they can see the vista too. And so that's like one of our core values for Limitless Outdoors is to inspire. We want to inspire people to chase after Jesus. We want to inspire people to chase after their dreams and their hunting. And, so I want to bring everybody to the top. And man, there's so many people that end up wasting their life. And so that's the goal for us, is to inspire people in that direction.
Yeah. When I was making film and, you know, podcast as well, what I wanted was 3 things. I want to teach, like educate. I want to entertain, and I want to inspire. And that's kind of my thing. Like if I can make a film that gets 2 of those, or a podcast that does 2 of those things, I feel like, okay, I did it. I did a good job. If I can get all 3, and in some ways, I feel like entertainment's the hardest part. Like the humor, the banter, the camaraderie, all of that stuff. I think that's actually a lot harder. People think they have it. I don't think they do often, you know? And so it's pretty easy as a hunter to educate while I'm hunting. And when you do something kind of like get the unicorn and, you know, get the moose way, way back there and you pack it out, like there's inspiring thing there. So the teaching and the inspiring, I think, are actually in our medium and what we do.
Yeah.
A little bit easier. The entertainment part's a little bit harder.
I agree.
I think it's hard to, like, you look at the analytics on YouTube and the initial hook, keeping people on. That's the challenge.
Yeah.
Right.
And that entertainment piece, because there's quite a bit of educational stuff that's not very interesting. There's quite a bit of inspiring stuff that, but it doesn't keep you there long enough to get inspired, to see the thing, you know?
Yeah.
But if you can make it that entertainment package. I remember listening to Dave Ramsey talk, like Financial Peace University.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm well aware that if I'm boring, nobody is going to change who they are. No one's going to get out of debt. I want you mad. I want you angry. I want you laughing. I want you emotionally feeling something, because when that happens, then you learn, you know?
Totally.
And, so that's the harder part, I think. And, you know, and I don't want to like, you know, if you're just getting one of those 3, it's kind of a failure for me. If you're hitting 2, it's good. It meets the bar. But
if you're not accomplishing your goals, then what are you doing in life? Like you have to adjust fire at any point.
When you guys started to grow, you know, the audience just gets bigger. Mm-hmm. What has been the rewarding part of that? Like,
it's just pure impact, right? So, obviously our goals are a little different than probably the average industry goals. We want to see people walking with Jesus. And so like our heart has always been for guys that are hardcore hunters. Like we want to reach, and that's what has always dictated. Earlier you asked why, you know, how do we approach a hunt? Like, so one of our other core values is hardcore hunting. Like we don't take on anything that's generally speaking, or we don't make videos. Like we do other stuff. We do a little bit of waterfowl hunting, and that could be hardcore.
I went on a hunt with Pedro a while back, and he said that, I said this many times on the podcast, but he's like, do you guys do any fun hunts?
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? This is fun. He's like, no. I mean, like, just go to a pig farm and hunt pigs and just shoot over bait, a thing. And I'm like, no, actually, we don't really do any fun hunts. So lately I've been rolling in a few fun hunts just with friends or family or whatever. It didn't dawn on me that no, I didn't bother. And, but I do think there's a place for it, but that's not a story I want to tell necessarily. It's
well,
like a vacation.
So here's a result of that though. So like we stay focused on that. So when we're hunting, if you're hunting in kind of easygoing areas, when we're out in the mountains, we run into people and not, some people know us, some people don't. But the harder the hunt, when we get in there, the farther we're in, the more people everyone that we run into. So like in Colorado, the last couple of years, we'll be, 10, 14 miles back there.
Yeah.
And anybody we run into on the trail knows who we are. They've watched our stuff. And so for me, that's the major metric, because my heart is to reach those guys. And our belief is that if we're going after hardcore guys, we got to be we're doing
the thing
hardcore
they
hunts.
want to see.
And, I think there's a spectrum of different styles of hunting that people are passionate about. Like you said, some people like just the fun, and it's all good. But like for us, we love being as far back as we can. We love getting away from everybody, and that requires a certain level of investment into it that a lot of people aren't willing to give. Sometimes physically can't. Like we're blessed to be in this place where we're able to give back there.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I heard somebody call it type 2 fun once.
Yeah.
And that's what you need a vacation after you get done with some of these hunts, right?
That's totally. That's the sort of fun though that I fill my life with mostly. But I do think it's a good challenge to try to do a little more of the type 1. Yeah. I'm so unbalanced. It's like all type 2. And my wife is like, for you, it's, and I think the more you guys have gone all over, done some crazy stuff in the mountains, just like we have. Then your wife my wife, she wants to go to, I don't know, the Bahamas and sit on the beach. And I'm like, there's nothing dangerous going on. There's no physical feat I have to achieve. Life becomes a little boring. And I've had to try to like find enjoyment in things that weren't just a Spartan race. I wanted it to be just a grind and hard, and otherwise I'm feeling bored out of my mind.
Yeah. And
I'm like, I don't know if that's the right place to be either.
It's a tough call. I do think that everybody's made a little different. I read Cam Haines' book recently, and like, while I understand what he's communicating for sure, like he talks about how he's never gone on a vacation. Like you have to be obsessed. And it's true. Like if you want to go farther than everybody else has ever gone, you have to be obsessed. But I stand back and I ask the opposite question. Like there's a lot of factors in our life. Like there's a lot of things that we're responsible for. Mm-hmm. And I think it's easy to dismiss the way one person lives their life because you live it a different way, or to reject categorically how they do it.
Sure.
But for me, I'm kind of with you. We go to Hawaii every year, the last few years. But I also combine it, like taking the kids hunting, and we're picking up lots of sheds and stuff like that. So I have to be super active, but there's something, we have to rest as people too, and being able to rest and enjoy that, and finding that. I don't think that's something that you can like will yourself to do. I think you grow into that. I think you kind of mature into that, that way of living over time, right? You have kids, and so you start investing in them, and you take them on some easier hunts. I don't know. I don't think it's a very simple answer. I don't think you can just say, this is how you have to live your life.
Well, I certainly, have been inspired by Cam. When I've had a little paradigm shift too, like what you can do with your body at a different age and how far, but and same with like Kobe Bryant, the mentality. And I've heard him talk a lot, about similar things where they asked him, well, did you lose a lot of friends and relationships because you put everything into this? And he's like, yep, most of them, all of them. And it's like, that's the price to be at that level.
Well, that was Kobe's whole deal, right? Like he was always looking for obsessives is what he would call them.
Yeah.
And so like, I always thought about that, like looking at Adam, him growing up, he's third generation there in Troy, Montana. Like his grandpa's killed more big bulls than probably close to,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's guys that have killed a lot of big bulls, but he's killed a lot of big bulls over the years. He grew up in a hunting family and just lives and breathes for it. And also Jesus, like to find that double obsessive. Same thing with my brother Colton. Like you find that and you grab onto it because those guys are going to push themselves farther. There was a show you did a while back, and you were talking about how you did like 50 miles over 10 days, and so one of our units of measurement is we call it a gritty. So 5 miles a day is a gritty. So we kind of measure our distances by gritty miles. So we're like, we did a double gritty or a triple gritty.
That's right.
So I don't know if you really wanted to know that, but that's one of the things we talk about because it was a passing comment from you. It's been kind of a
that's hilarious
running unit of measurement for us, the gritty.
Yeah, I tell you, like the obsession thing, I torn on because I liked watching Kobe Bryant play and I liked watching Michael Jordan play, but I didn't want to be Kobe Bryant. That's not a price I want to pay.
Yeah,
my value system doesn't align with that, but I still was inspired by it too. Same with Cam. I don't want to be Cam, but I admire Cam.
Totally.
And so, and I love, so like you were saying earlier, how it's easy to judge another person's path and go and not relate to it or not value it the same. But I do sometimes think about it, and I think about how much I actually have absorbed from various people that have inspired me, who were willing to go and give up a lot of other things that I'm not willing to give up to be there. And I'm torn. Like, partly I almost feel like God needed these people for that space. I don't know if they're living up to what they should be, or if they aren't. You know what I mean?
I think, well, the word of God tells us whatever our hand finds to do it heartily, do it mightily as unto the Lord, right? And the world suffers from people not being obsessed, not from obsessive people, right? But you're totally right. Like everybody can't do everything. I think that's where you have to double down in what you have. And then another thing is we're always looking at other people's lives. And this is one thing social media has really elevated is this voyeurism. And you're looking into other people's lives and you're minimizing the things like when we talk about sacrifice, you're minimizing the things that you have sacrificed. So just in our conversation earlier, just listening to you, like in order to get to gritty, first off, you had an investment in doing something when everybody has dreams, but a lot of people don't do something. But then you come to this pivotal point and it's like, do I step out in faith and, walk away from a job that I have the security in, I have the comfort in, I have just it's just what I've done. It's the rhythm of my life. And so it's that ability to change. And if you really look into anybody that's been successful, there's been sacrifices. And when you see that, I think what happens is it challenges us all. It's like we all know that the potential is there. It's like you look at Cam Hanes and the shape he's in. He's inspired so many guys that are, moving up in age that have kind of let themselves go. He's like, no, look, it can be done. And what that does, we always talk about it. The ideal judges us. So when you look at Cam Hanes, like as a man, like
this is what
I could do that.
Yeah.
But why it judges us and why we get all pissy about it is because it's like, well, I'm not willing to do, if we're honest with ourselves, we're like, I'm not willing to do what it takes to do what I know is possible and what I kind of want. Like, I kind of want to be in that shape. There's these guys that are sitting there and like, I want to be in that shape. I want to look like that. I want to be able to do those things and like be vigorous again. Like I want to be alive and not be dying. Right. And, but then the challenge is like, are you willing to get up at 3 a.m. and run like he does? Are you
marathon?
Are you willing to go do carnivore diet?
Yeah.
For years, like to deny yourself in order to accomplish something better to get to a better destination? Are you willing to do that?
Well, I think the answer to that for most people is no, they're not. They're not willing to put in a lot of work to make the life they want.
Yeah.
And that's the sad reality. And I look around and I think that's why the content you create and the content I create, I'd like to see more of that. I'd like to see people, be the man in the arena.
Yes.
See the man that like, maybe they don't succeed, but at least they fail daring greatly and they're not the cold, timid person who never experiences failure or defeat. Like you can, like, I want people to be that guy that risks it all the time.
Yeah.
Because then you're at least in the game, you're trying. And the truth is, the secret is, the more you fail, those are the people who eventually are the winners.
Well, and the hard thing is you look at it and everything that you do, the way you live your life permeates every aspect of your life, right? So, the guy that isn't willing to even try, you look at marriage, you look at everything, and it all reflects that. There's just this passive mentality that affects everything. And like, yeah, the good life is for somebody else. And, it's so toxic to themselves because deep down they really want it, but they, at some point, do you remember when we were growing up and we all thought we could be whatever and like the world was your oyster and like there was just so much to run after. And then all of a sudden you get out there and just life hits you back and forth. And before you know it, you're beat down and the light's out of your eyes. And man, it's the most brutal and painful thing to see in somebody and to experience it. Like as you start getting beat down, it's like you want to rally. And I think that's where the inspire thing comes in, right? Like guys watch your stuff. And like, honestly,
they decide they don't want to quit the next time they feel like quitting. No,
well, because I'm 37, almost 38 now. I don't know. You and Ryan
50, Ryan's 51.
You're right there. So like, and I've hunted with guys that are in their 60s and like, I love seeing, I was working out the other day in the gym here and there was a guy next to me on the Nordic track. We were both hammering and the guy was definitely in his 60s, like high 60s.
Yeah.
And he was keeping right with me. And I was just like, in my mind, I was like, I wanted to see him just keep going. I'm like, keep going. Cause I want to know that it's possible to be like that. And so I didn't say anything to him, but in my mind, I was like, I wanted to see him keep going. And he did. And he just kept going. I'm like, yes, because it was exciting me that it's possible, right?
Yes.
And that's that inspiring.
That's the inspiring part.
Right?
That's the part I want people to continually run up against and then decide, no, I can do more than I put out. I can do more. I can accomplish more. I'm also okay to fail. I think people are so afraid of failure that they don't even try. And that's the part is like, so what if you fail?
Yeah.
I mean, so what? So changing the subject just a little bit.
Yeah.
How is it for you? Let's say, let's talk about forgiveness. Someone has done something in your life that you were disappointed in, was wrong. But, they know it's wrong and they're ready to change. How does repentance, what is that?
Well, two different things, right? So we can forgive somebody without them changing direction. Like there's been people and that is not an easy process, right? So people that are continually hurting you, like you can forgive that. Repentance, like
I want to stomp on their throat.
Me too.
So,
like that's the natural. Trust me, like you're not dealing with anything. Like whether you're a Christian or not, like the feelings are real. Like we're all in bodies of flesh here, and like people hurt you, and it's not it's not right. Like God did not create the world that way, right? So when that's one of the metrics that that God is real and that sin is wrong is when somebody hurts you. Because we always talk about sin in relationship with God, and we're like, well, I'm not really a sinner. I'm more good than I am bad. But when somebody hurts you, darn it, you're not you want your pound of flesh. And it's like, if somebody hurts you, they ain't going to come and live in your house, right? You're going to keep them as far away from you as possible. And that's the same reality with God. It's like, you sin against God. Why would he want you in his presence when you give him the finger and don't want anything to do with him? That's the same principle, right? So just kind of keep it simple within human context. But repentance is always, I always do it with my kids. I'm like, if I'm going left, what does it look like to repent? And they're like, to go right. If I'm going down, what does it look like to repent? To go up. And so it's just simply a changing of your mind and your direction, right? So like somebody that's repentant is somebody like you're out on a hunt, and I experienced this a couple of years ago with one of my best friends. We had a blow up on the hunt together, but both of us backtracked on it, right? Like we were both like, you know what, we were wrong to handle it. You know, there was different things we were right about, but there was different things that we were both wrong about.
Mhm.
So when we talk about repentance, the person is aware that they made a mistake,
Yeah.
and they're like, you know what, Brian, I hurt you, man, and then we resume relationship.
Sometimes people, though, they do things that they're so ashamed of.
Oh yeah.
And then how do they fix that?
You know,
Because shame's tough.
Shame's the worst. It's crippling. The only way I've found to deal with that stuff is you have to drag it out in the open, and it's the most painful. And then when you do, it was always like, in some ways, it was the easiest thing you did. The Mack truck is lifted off your chest, and from a shame, like we've all done stuff and continue to do stuff that, man, it's painful, and you don't necessarily want people to know about it, maybe, or when you're talking about dealing with relational stuff, like you just don't see a path forward. And so for me, I always have to look at like Romans 5, and it's one of the most powerful chunks of scripture that exists. And in Romans 5, it says, not only do we have peace with God through Jesus, like he's reconciled us, but we have access to him. And that's a difference in relationship. Like there's a lot of people, I'm sure, in your life that you've forgiven, but you don't have access to them, or they don't have access to you anymore. And that's the next level, right? To have forgiveness and then access again. Do you know what I mean? Like
I know what you mean.
In a marriage relationship, say there's adultery, like they might kind of get over it, but do you have that level of access to them again? And I think we can't control how anybody does anything, but we can set the standard. Like we can die to ourselves, and we can open ourselves up to get wounded again. But like at the end of the day, it's worth it if you don't risk it. Like you don't know, you'll never get the reward. We talk about it with everything else, like, but forgiveness is the same thing. If you don't risk forgiveness to forgive somebody, you don't risk forgiving somebody. If you don't risk opening yourself up and like swallowing your pride, because part of shame, what perpetuates it is your pride. Like you don't want things to, you don't want to say that you were wrong.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that really builds into this is this concept of, we're almost always wrong in a situation, whether that's 5% or 95%. And the problem is when you're 5% wrong, like there's things, you got to own those things. But you know, like if you and I have a big tiff and I'm 5% wrong and you're 95% wrong, if I lead and say, hey, will you forgive me for this situation? All of a sudden I've made myself weak and vulnerable. It's like, no, it's like saying that you're right because I said that I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But when you don't do that, when you don't lead the way and pioneer, it doesn't matter what somebody else does. It matters what you do. And that's where it all starts. It's the whole theme of our conversation here has been that from the beginning. It's like, whether you're starting a YouTube channel, you don't be everybody else, be you. You can't control how people like you, receive you, anything. And when it comes to interrelationship stuff, it's all the same.
Yeah. I think you mentioned the Mack truck lifted off your chest. Like you're describing something so hard. And then when you do it, you're like, you know what? You dragging that shame out into the open, I think is just such a difficult thing for people to do that have made a bad mistake. And then to share that with the world is to say, I'm broken. Your whole identity is now that you've had in your mind of who you are is completely shattered. And now you kind of have to build up a new identity, one that encompasses the fact that you're not perfect. You know, and that's, some people just don't want to like come face to face with that.
Well, I think it's super hard when you're especially, so we're not talking hypothetically here. We're talking as the reality of our lives is there's people that are watching you, and there's a lot of people that want to tear you down and are looking for anything. And if you're vulnerable in the wrong way, that could be the catalyst for that. And so it does amplify the difficulty.
There will be people,
right,
that tear you down.
Yeah,
When you,
and that adds to the shame and the hurt, and you're scared. That's the fear.
It's especially true. Like, it's even worse when everybody knows who you are. Right? Like, it's a lot different when Kobe Bryant did something he shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Than when Joe, the dentist, did it that nobody knows.
Exactly.
And so sometimes, sometimes I think that makes the process all the harder, but if I just feel like if someone can, then there's that room for growth that they could never have, like that Mack truck coming off. It's like, but you can't go halfway, really.
Well, that's one of my favorite things that I realized a long time ago about the Bible in general. It's like you look at King David, and if you've done this in your life, if you've killed a man and stolen his wife from him,
that was pretty bad.
That's the top. That's the top level, right? That's as bad as it can get.
I gotta admit, like that one really pisses me off and makes me really I go from deeply admiring David to deeply despising it.
Yeah. So you look at that though. My point is, you look at that, and that has been immortalized. It's been around for when was David? 2,000 years before?
Yeah, 1,500.
Yeah. So that's been around forever now. So if you can look at that, and you look at all these men in the Bible, and there is not, outside of Jesus, there's not one that didn't have a major failure, a major shortcoming. Yeah. Abraham, he constantly did things that was against God. There were so many men that fell short, and they ended up getting called out on it. David got called out on it, and he repented from it, and he's still known as a man after God's own heart. Like, there are so many things in our own lives. Like, yeah, we're going to fall short. We are constantly going to fall short, but it is that willingness to openly address it.
Yeah.
And have the tough conversation. And especially with people that love you, like with people that love you, there is nothing more freeing than talking to those people and working through it, because once that happens, it's in the past. You don't have to carry it anymore.
Yeah. What do you think about, like, how does someone get there where they, I don't know, they kind of found themselves in that position where they've made those mistakes, but they convince themselves they're not really that big of mistakes, or just hidden those mistakes for a long time. And then all of a sudden they're confronted with the reality of it. And I think sometimes that's a complete destruction of, I don't know, there's something about.
I'll give it to you. Here's what I think. I think that we are all, when we choose direction has destination. I've said that a couple times today. And I saw somebody the other day that had once been really powerful in ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw them, and they were just a shell of who they were. And they had decided to go a different direction and chase after these different things. And the soul, the man that is in decline, is one of the most painful things to look at. And it's like, pornography is a huge thing for guys, and stuff's poison, and it gets a hold of guys and it drags them down. One of our guys on our team, we follow up with everybody that reaches out to us. We try to, and there was this guy that had been watching porn, and he got deeper and deeper and deeper until he started pretending that he was a woman online and getting into chat rooms and asking other women for pictures. And but what happens is, you ask the question, when you're finally confronted with this thing, you've been hiding it, you've been covering it up. The thing is you're hiding it, but you can't. Sin is so powerful. This stuff is so powerful. You can't hold on to it without it affecting you. And whether people know exactly what's going on in your life, what they can see is what is happening to this person? They're getting more distant. They're getting drugged down. They're beat down. And here's what I would say to you is Genesis 4 says that this is when God is talking to Cain. He says that sin is crouching at the door and its desire is to rule over you, but you should rule over it. And that's the reality. Like if you find yourself, I would say to anybody listening, if you find yourself in this place where something is ruling over you, like I want to be a free man. I don't want something ruling over me. I don't want to be a slave to anything because a slave can't say no to something, right?
Yeah.
You can't say no. You have to do it. So if there's anything in your life that you can't say no to, that you don't want to do, but you just can't say no, you're a slave to it. And what you have to do, God says we can do it too, is we have to rule over it. And that is not an easy process. It sounds easy, but it's like, it starts with confession, like confession to the Lord first. Like, hey, look, I'm tired of living this way and I'm not going to go down this path. I don't want that destination. I don't want to be a shell of who I was. I don't want our relationship to be a shell of what it was. Like, I want my marriage to be red hot, like, or white hot. Whatever it is. Whatever the color. I want it to be that
hot. What do you think about the idea of, I don't need confession. It's between God and I.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously it's a cop-out, right? Because I'm not talking about like confession, like going to a priest here.
Sure.
Hebrews tells us that we don't need a mediator between us and God, but everything is between you and God. But here's the deal. Like your sin impacts other people. That's kind of what we're talking about, right? So it is so important when, like, if you know that you've hurt me, it's so important to, even though we both can look each other in the eye and we both know that you hurt me, like, it's a big deal to acknowledge that, right? And that's when we talk about confessing the Lord Jesus, it's acknowledging.
Why? Why is it important? Why is?
Because there's a broken rift there, and in order to reestablish that trust, because what's happened is trust has been broken, right? Uh-huh. Trust has been broken. It's been violated. It's something that never should have happened. Everybody knows it, and I think until the other person acknowledges it, there can't actually be a healing there. It'll always be there. And even you and I both know it's difficult enough when somebody acknowledges it because the pain's real there. Like if you get cut by somebody, it's like, man, I'm super sorry about that. And it's like, I still have the scar. But I've never in my life seen a healing without like an honest conversation and communication about the reality of acknowledging, because I can't trust you again. If you're going to hurt me, I can forgive you, but how can I trust you again if I don't know that you know it was wrong?
And I also feel like this, if you're the person in that position and you can't confess, then you didn't really change.
No.
Like I feel like if you're really sorry, then it should be kind of easy.
So what makes it hard?
All the people you disappoint. You have to confront who you really are inside, not the facade you've created. You have to admit that you were not perfect like maybe you thought you were, or you construct in your own mind some picture of, and maybe it deep down that it's not real, but other people don't know it. And now you have to face that they do know now,
I would say this to you. I would say the second you stop crying about it, you're in really dangerous water. Because that conviction, that hurt, that knowing, like when you become numb to that, when you have a seared conscience, when you end up at that place with a seared conscience, man, you're damned at that point. Because when we're young, man, even just telling like a little lie, telling something, it just plagues us. We're just hurt. We just can't hardly handle it. And then the lies get bigger as you get older and you get more comfortable with them. And even like the simple stuff, like creating an illusion of what your life is or looks like, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the second that you stop feeling the pain from other people hurting you, from the things that you're coming up in short in, man, you're in a really dangerous place. And I think the quicker you deal with these things,
I agree with that.
the quicker you deal with these things, the less of a chance you have of searing your conscience, because it's a dangerous thing. Like these deranged people, like I know this is an extreme example, but Jeffrey Dahmer and all these guys, like you get to the point where it's a seared conscience and they don't feel anything anymore. And they did not start out. Some people do start out pretty bad right out of the gate. Sure. But you know what I mean? Like I've watched enough people in my life, and I know you've seen the same, where it's like, they start drinking and then they start doing some recreational drugs, and before you know it, they're on meth and their life is totally consumed. It's a slope, right? And if they would have responded when the tears first came, if they would have responded and changed direction, repented,
yep,
right,
yep,
it would have eliminated all that pain.
Oh yeah.
So I've been doing some trading, and one thing I've found is like, the cycles of a stock.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes the best thing you can do is get out when you know that it's going to really plummet, right? Mm-hmm. But like part of us wants to stay with it so you don't have to deal with the initial loss. Like you want to recover out of it, but it'll keep going down.
That's a good analogy, actually.
It'll keep going down, and then the loss is way worse.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? And then you end up selling out at the very bottom because you're done for.
Yeah, you're like, maybe it won't be so bad if I just ride out this lie.
Exactly.
Maybe it won't be so bad if I just push this a little bit longer and I can get away with a portion of it, but not all of it. It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't.
But it's
strange how it doesn't, but it doesn't. Like we think that you can outsmart it. But it's effective. It's not an outsmart thing. Like you just can't. I don't understand it all. Like I know when I read the Bible and I see sin, and I know it's a real deal, but we don't understand the full gravity of it. But we do see its effects. Like you don't understand why it has an effect like that, but it does have an effect like that.
I've said this a lot on the podcast and I think I heard Jordan Peterson say this when I read 12 Rules for Life, and he talked about, look, dude, like the truth is like some eternal power that just forces its way to the surface.
That's a good way.
And you just can't stop it. And you can sit here, like, look at all this stuff with Trump it's like everything combined to say all this stuff, like a guy can be a girl and you name it, like all of it. And truth just refused, said, no, sorry. And it just keeps coming back and coming back, no matter all the propaganda, no matter how hard it gets pushed. Any dark secret that they suppressed, right, it just comes back up to the top and the truth comes out. It's like, you can't fight truth. And
because you can't refute it.
I feel like it's its own thing that you can't stop.
Yeah.
Like, it's big. It's like gravity. Okay. So
like
real law, not like some of the fake laws that we come up with or, like arbitrary stuff. But I'm talking like laws like gravity, like no matter how you feel about it, it is true. You throw a ball up in the air, it is coming down.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with every principle, like the whole woke thing. It's why it would never work. Like we're not the first civilization to go woke, right?
Yeah,
and it's never worked out for any civilization. And it's not because people don't like it or we're not progressive enough in our thinking. It's just like gravity. It's like it takes a man and a woman to make a child so that human species keep going forward, and guys and girls sports doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like it's just it's gravity. It's not,
it is.
Like take everything else out of it. It's gravity.
It's just gravity. Yeah, that's how I feel about truth. And so fighting truth is a dead end battle. You'll never win. And the more you drag it out, the worse it can get. And like you said, I think to the point where you even sear that conscience and then you're really lost. And
well, you know how when people ask us how we're doing and we say, oh, we're doing good, like that casual thing, it reminds me of, and you're not.
Yeah.
Like you got stuff going on. The deal is there's the new Magnificent Seven movie with Chris Pratt a few years back. He tells a joke towards the end when they're in the shootout and it's all going to hell. And he's like, you know what the guy said that jumped out of like the seventh story as he passed the third story? I don't know if he tells the joke perfect, but he's like, somebody yells out, how's it going? And as he passes the third story, he's like, going good so far. And that's like but you know the destination, right?
Right.
So that's the deal. Like when people ask us how we're doing, it's like, yeah, I'm good. You're the guy when you're deep in something and you're falling out of that 7th story. Like you need that guy at the 3rd story to grab you and pull you in, not say going good so far, because you know it's not good.
So tell me what's at the other end. The potential. What's at the other end for a person who's in that place but can get out of it, like is willing to, go through the confessions and the process. Like what's at the end of that?
I'll speak for myself on this one. So coming into it, so before I became a Christian, money was everything to me. Like I wanted experiences, money. Like I remember being on a hunt in Alaska. I just shot a grizzly bear and I was already unsatisfied. Like we hadn't even gotten it skinned out. And I was like, what's next? That was the question. What's next? Right. And I always thought money was the solution to everything. But I just wanted to experience anything I wanted. I always used to say, like, if you want something, just reach out and grab it. And that translated into women and everything for me. So I have the most amazing wife. Like objectively, she's better than everybody else's wife. She's a unicorn in every way. But here's the deal: is like I had an affair on my wife, and coming to that place with Jesus was this was the moment that like I talked to all these different people about it. I confessed it before my wife and talked to her, and there'd been this huge rift in there, and the relationship wasn't anywhere near what it could be.
Mm-hmm.
And then after confessing all of that, after taking those hard steps and the shame, like you look like a punk and like, But here's the deal: is the Lord's used that powerfully. That act, there's been this healing between me and my wife, and this is 14, 15 years ago that this happened. The relationship that we have, it's unrivaled to anything. Like we love being around. We build each other up. Like the Bible says that a man and a woman are going to be helpmates to each other. Like in every way, we do everything together. We experience life. We adventure. And it wasn't that way before. It was, you hear all these guys talking about the old lady at home. I'm telling you right now, like those things are caused by sin. Like marriage, when God created marriage, he created it to be amazing and impactful and life-giving and thriving and passionate, and sex was going to be awesome. Like sex is awesome. Like, and then you talk to these guys that they're having sex once a month. Or if they're even that lucky, and it's always held over their head. And like, that's not the way marriage can be. And I'm telling you right now, there's steps that we can take. So like, you want to see a better future. You want to see a vision of a better future. Mm-hmm. Like there are people out there that are living it, and it's because they're staying on top of these things. They're not allowing sin to get in between the relationship.
How was that when you had to tell her?
Nobody wants to talk about those things. It's painful, right? Like lots of questions are asked. Like you're risking everything, right? So like a lot of people have covered up stuff over the years. And it's just like, if I tell them, it's going to destroy them, but it's always a rift in the relationship, like whether it's spoken or not, like there's always something there. And, but yeah, I mean, you're risking the relationship when you do it, right? They have every reason to walk away from you. But I think the thing for me that it comes down to is like, do I want to settle? And might just be my personality, but I think it's everybody's personality. Do I want to just live a meaningless life, or do I want to have a meaningful life? Do I want to go through life just kind of drifting through and getting by and working a dead-end job? And like, here's what I believe that God created us all for a very significant purpose. Daniel 11:32 says, those who know their God will be strong and carry out great exploits. They'll be strong. They're not going to be these weak slobs. Like, it's just, I know that might offend some people, but the reality is like, you are not living up to your potential that God, not only potential, but like God has put you here to fulfill that purpose. And when you're not walking in your purpose, when you're weak and you're not strong, and you're not carrying out great exploits, that means doing significant things. Like you are missing everything that it is with life. And that's why you're sitting on the couch, scrolling through Facebook, struggling and like not feeling depressed and having to be on antidepressants. And that everything else is just a train wreck in your life, is because it all starts with the fact that you've totally missed the boat in the beginning. And so it's worth risking the relationships. It's worth saying, you know what? I don't want to live this way. Like I want to enjoy you. I want to enjoy this relationship. I don't want there to be anything between us. From friendships to marriage to business relationships, it's like keep a short account on all these things.
I agree. I heard, I kind of try to live by that principle of I'm going to put my faith in telling the truth, like in the truth. Just, if I just do that, it kind of all the rest falls into place. If I've been lying or I'm not telling the truth, or it's like, stop that. Now I heard Jordan Peterson say, tell the truth, even when you have it, when you might lose everything. He's also said, if you want to have a really adventurous life, tell the truth. And I think
that's cool,
right? Like, because at the time where it's the darkest, and if you tell your truth, you're going to hit the worst part of your life. That's the beginning of the best part of your life moving forward. So he's like, if you want to have an adventure, tell the truth. You know,
I would say this just from a counsel standpoint. I would advise anybody there's a right way and a wrong way to go about this. The truth needs to be spoken to those that it impacts, right? So that could be the entire nation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
okay.
But you also, like, there's wisdom in a multitude of counselors. I think it's important to go to people that are wise and that love you first, and have some honest and people that will protect you from making the wrong, not doing the wrong, not people that'll like, no, you need to lie to protect yourself. No, I'm talking about people that'll do the right thing for you. But people that are trustworthy, right? So when you're dealing with heavy, big things, you need to be discreet and you need to be wise in who you talk to about those things. That doesn't need to be public, right? And so a lot of times, a lot of these things that we think are going to be monumental, big things, a lot of times they can be handled. Sometimes they really are big things. Like there's real reasons to fear, right?
Yeah.
When you're public, a lot of things happen publicly. But I would say just be really wise and talk to people that you can trust first, and get their feedback. And you have to measure everything, like you said, against the truth.
Yeah.
And because even people that love you and are very wise sometimes won't give you wise advice. They'll want to protect you at the cost of the truth. And so I think it's nothing to be done cavalierly, right? Like it needs to be thought through, and it needs to be proportionate to what's been done.
Yeah.
You got to meet it where it's at, not build it up too much in your head or diminish it, minimize it.
Yeah. I think, I agree with that. And when you tell the truth though, I think there is you said it at the very beginning of that, before you mentioned the Mack truck, you were like, hey, it seems like such a big deal sometimes when you're faced with some shame, some mistake you made, and everyone will know. And then yet you realize, like, when you're done, like a month later, 3 months later, after you've gone through it, you're like, I made it into such a big deal. But I think what it does, the reason it doesn't feel like it did before, it's not that what you did wasn't bad and you're not, you wish you could maybe never have done that.
Yeah.
But there's just something spiritual, I think. You're a different person afterward. And the trade was worth it. Like, the trade was worth it. The pureness of the feeling that you have inside, everyone might just look down on you now because they know you did dumb thing X, Y, Z. But it's like the sting is gone because the peace is replacing it.
Well, so, okay, we are two different things, right? Or combined. We are a body and we're a spirit and a soul, a soul. And the reality is in the flesh, we call it the flesh and the spirit in the Bible. But the reality is if you get a sliver in the flesh and you don't do anything about it, it's irritating, it's painful every time. You know how you get something in there and then you like a thorn in there and then you reach and, it's just like, all the time. Well, sin is a sliver of the soul, right? A sliver in the soul.
Yeah.
And until you how we deal with the sin is we confess it. It's like pulling a sliver out. The confession of it is the pulling of the sliver. And so like if we go grab tweezers when we have a sliver in the skin, but in the soul, the tweezers that we use is the confession and it gets it out. And instead of it always constantly agitating and, swelling up and pussing and like that's what's when we have sin that we haven't confessed in our life, what's happening is it's a sliver in the soul. It's festering, it's pussing, it's creating all sorts of problems. You're walking around, you're carrying this heavy weight and Like, you should pull it out. You can pull it out, but you're afraid of that momentary pain when you dig in there with the needle and then rip it out.
Yeah.
But long term, it's the best thing possible. And then here's a good metric for you. How would you,
and it's all pussy.
Yeah.
And
how would you advise, like when you're talking about these situations, like,
yeah,
how would you advise somebody else to deal with it? That's what you should probably do.
yeah.
If we all know the right answer. James 4:17 says, to him who knows to do good and doesn't do it, to him it's sin.
Yeah.
Like, and I think sometimes Romans 16 says, be wise concerning good and simple concerning evil. And I think that these things, we know the answer to them. It's just like, be simple about it. Just, you know what? Go home, have that conversation, pick up that phone, call that person. Whatever the thing that you're doing that's killing you, kill it.
For people in that position who've made a mistake, I also think it's so important that they realize, like, people, just like God, we get some haters, right? All around us, everyone does, especially if you're in the public a little bit. But the truth is, people want to forgive. They do.
They do. People want a redemption story.
Yeah. They look around and they're like, man, I like that guy. Made a mistake. They're looking to forgive him.
You know why they want to forgive is because
they have it themselves.
That's a good point.
That's the reality.
And all those things that in my life, and I'm sure you guys have experienced it, but like all those things that I am the most scared and the biggest things to let go of.
Yeah.
Those God has used most powerfully to minister to other people.
Yeah.
I was sitting at a bar the other night in the restaurant, talking to this couple that they've been dating for 15 years and hadn't gotten married. And I'd been with my wife we were together like 7 or 8 years before we got married because we weren't Christians. And I didn't think it was any big deal. And it opened an opportunity to talk to them about the significance of marriage and what that looks like and what it can be. And so those things that were like shameful parts of and things that we've done end up opening doors, or whether that's pornography. Like, I've walked through all this stuff. Like, it's not, I'm a dude like anybody else. And when you're able to share a victory story out of that, that's what everybody's looking for. They say 80% of men in the church are watching pornography. In the church, right? So that's not even just general guy. Like, we're all dealing with the problem, right? And so what all these guys are sitting there and they're watching this guy mess up, right? And they're like you said, they're looking for that redemption story because they're in the same boat. They're like, man, I did that.
That is literally riddled throughout the Bible. It's men falling short and coming out the other side victorious.
Yeah. Well, fellas, thanks for coming on the podcast and sharing your experience. Folks want to find Limitless. Where do they go?
Just YouTube, Limitless Outdoors.
Easy to find.
I don't do much social media, but we do have a Limitless Outdoors Instagram and Facebook.
Do you have a website?
Yeah, we do have. It's limitlesshunting.com.
Limitlesshunting.com.
Our big thing that we started a long time ago is our first mile. We always share it on every video, but it's a resource because we all started out, we had no idea what to do. Like, we knew there was this promise of an awesome life that Jesus wants to give you. And so the first mile just walks you through. We give it out free. We have an app for everybody to do it, and lots of cool resources there. But it just walks you through who God is, how to have a practical and powerful relationship that actually transforms your life with God. So just a resource out there for people. That's what we're all about.
It's an app now.
Yep.
So
nice.
Yep.
All right, folks, check it out. Go over to limitlesshunting.com. And YouTube's easy to find. And I'm sure there's links in the description fields and stuff like that there as well. So thank you for tuning in. Fellas, thanks for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
For sure.
Folks, let us know what you think in the comment section below. And we try to respond to all those down there. And we'll catch you on the next episode. Stay gritty.